Hello everyone, Sandra here, and welcome to a Life and Channel update for September 2022, which I'm cutting very close. Speaking of cutting things, I got a haircut. I just been feeling that it wasn't looking the way I liked, and there's a little bit of an experiment going on. It's mostly working, I guess. So anyway, that's kind of the obvious life update, but there's been a lot of different things kind of going on. Those paying attention to this here channel may have noticed that I streamed Subnautica and then uploaded the VODs to this here channel, as I tend to do. And I had fun streaming the game, which is why I did so. But it didn't 100% accomplish my goals in interaction. The first stream really did. There were people hanging out like the entire time, or at least somebody that I was chatting with the entire time. But subsequent streams didn't really seem to have people there. I had fun playing it, and I do want to stream some more at some point here, but we'll see when I get to it. I'm not feeling an urgent desire to do so. But I'm glad I went back to it and had some fun with that. It's really tricky because I do want the stream to be about interaction, but that requires having enough people there in chat that are active for that to happen. And like Twitch itself also tries to emphasize the numbers side of it, and that's kind of not the goal. It's one of those things where like you have to reach a certain critical mass threshold of enough people there that you can start having interactions with chat. But there's also like this other point that you hit where there's too much chat to really interact with well. So I don't know where it's going to kind of sit. But there was some, and then there's a drop off, and that's because I haven't really felt a drive to do anything more after finishing that Subnautica Below Zero playthrough. Other things include having worked more on my game. Things are moving forward. One of the things that has really struck me in the last couple days is that the way my brain works is really bad at processing small incremental steps in like both directions. And what I mean by that is if there is a goal or an objective where I can see all of the individual steps that lead up to it, I just get overwhelmed by how many things there are to do. So, and a good example of this, and what I kind of refer to as, or have made kind of in Breath of the Wild, there's a bunch of Korok seeds, and I wanted to collect all of them before, I want to say a Smash Ultimate, but I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. But before a game came out, and so I spent a bunch of time just going through, following a map, collecting Korok seeds, and you zoom the map out, and it's just like everywhere the Korok seeds, and it's just one of those things that felt kind of overwhelming. And so I kind of refer to it as the lesson of the Korok seeds. If you don't look at the whole thing, you just look at, okay, what's next, and you just do that, and you get through it, and eventually you finish. But my brain really struggles with that sort of thing, where it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that I can see that needs to be done, a lot of different steps, and it's just like, where do I start? And it just can feel like a whole lot. So that's one direction, but the other side is if I'm doing something that has small incremental buildup, but I don't have a really strong sense of where that buildup is going, then it can feel like I'm not accomplishing anything or not doing anything. So that's kind of like this weird two sides. Like it's the same problem that I have with small incremental steps, manifesting in two different ways. And I think that's interesting. It's also kind of frustrating because it does mean that I can feel either overwhelmed on the one hand, or because I feel like all of these things need to get done for this goal to be accomplished, and the incremental steps don't feel like they're like either way. It's basically, it feels like incremental steps aren't accomplishing the thing. Either they're not the whole goal, and I get focused on the full goal. I tend to be somebody who has a hard time seeing the trees. I tend to see the forest. So anyway, that's enough rambling about that. But I have been making some decent steps forward with my game. The other big thing that I did is I wrote the first quarterly progress report since doing the change in direction with the game. There's a video that came out a few months ago. I basically decided to make that change not long after the previous quarterly report. So there's actually been good progress since then. If I think back on it, like 3 months, um, in terms of just changing things around. But I wrote the first progress report following that decision, and so there will be a link down in the description for that article if you really want to dig into the details. But I break down like why did I make the change, what's changing, basically everything. But like why did there's a lot of like explaining why I'm doing things differently and how I'm doing things differently and how that's going to address the whys of why I changed. So that's all kind of important stuff. Uh, Although maybe not like critically important. I don't know. And then I kind of go over, okay, what is it? Oh man, let me tell you, it was very nice to be able to be like, here are core mechanical things that need to get done, and having those be like, this is the distinct list. There's not more than this. That was really nice. Let me tell you, because that was not happening with the previous design at all. I just kept growing and growing and growing in terms of the things that it was a design hungry beast. Anyway, that's more details there if you are interested. And like I said, that is in the description. I will remember to put a link there. Self. Any other sorts of things immediately come to mind? Nothing jumps out. Like if you want to know more, that does remind me. One of the other things that I did start doing this month is I have. Some of you may know I've mentioned it plenty of times, but I have a Patreon, and what I do on that Patreon primarily is I post public free post that link to stuff that I do. So if you want to have a spot for like getting emailed when a new article comes out, or when a new non-VOD video comes out on my YouTube channel, that you can just follow a Patreon. You don't have to subscribe to it. You can just follow it, and you'll get like email links to like public posts and stuff like that. At least that's how it worked at one point in time. Hopefully, it still works that way. But I think you should be able to just follow it and set things up so that way you get the public posts emailed to you. So that's something that you can do. But I have the primary thing that I do is at a $5 USD tier. I write daily diary entries about what's been going on. So I decided to make free samples, I guess. So every 8 days, there's a reason why I chose 8. But every 8 days, I'm making the diary entry public. So that's something you can go check out if you want to as well. There's always been a link to my Patreon in the description. The reason for every 8 days is days tend to have similar patterns. So, for example, Monday is my day off. At least that is where it sits in my brain as day off. Technically, you can mince things around however you kind of want to try to parse stuff. But I have different life activities that happen on different days. So, for example, Sunday I have church, and that it's not an off activity as far as I'm concerned. But it has to do with responsibilities. For like what mentally to me is a day off is like, do I have no responsibilities, nothing that I have to do that day? And so there's things that I have on my schedule on Sunday. It makes that not feel like a day off, but it's kind of like the other, people have a weekend of 2 days typically. So like there's that, and then there's other activities on other days of the week. So there tends to be specific patterns on certain days of the week. So I didn't want to have the public posts be too frequent, but I also didn't want them to be like a week apart. I didn't want it to always be the same day of the week and keep hitting that same pattern. So 8 days means that it'll slowly go across the week, kind of give a little bit of a feel for things, but missing, obviously the other 7 days in between. So anyway, that's something I started doing this month was making every 8th of those posts public. So that's kind of big thing. Yeah, I think that generally covers stuff this month fairly well. Some of the big things that I'm looking for in life right now is community. So, if that's something you're looking for too, uh, maybe hang out in the Discord. I don't know. It's not very active at all, and I don't quite know how to change that. But anyway, let's not get off on rambling sidetracks. Let's go ahead and just bring this guy to a landing. I thank you all very much for watching, for being invested in where things are going with my life and this channel. I haven't really done any thinking piece videos this month, particularly. If there's anything that you're interested in, I mean, you just let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll record something. Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to some new Pokemon games. Oh, and just a quick thing to say. I got Quake for the Switch because I was feeling nostalgic and it was on sale for QuakeCon, and it played pretty well actually. What I was most surprised by was some of the new expansion packs that came out with this new edition of Quake. It's not quite the same thing as the old edition. If you have Quake on Steam, you should have access to the new stuff as well. So it's not like it's a exclusive to anywhere. They've been thrown out the wall. But the new expansion packs are quite enjoyable, and that the I forget what they called it, something in the machine or something like that, was notably quite impressive level design as far as I'm concerned, and I quite enjoyed it. So that's something that you might consider if you enjoy those games of yore. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up now because I'm just going to ramble otherwise. Thank you, everyone. Take care, and goodbye.